if the world we exist in makes no sense at all? What if the weight becomes too much to bear? We can't really function, we're so full of fear. And what if in darkness we can't see the light, and we start to consider to give up the fight?
Find the light. This time is not right for you to go.
What if we reached out and touched someone's hand and maybe discover that they understand? And what if someone could just show us how to see failing as learning and to live in the now? And what if we opened and could see the light and start to consider we can win this fight? We can win this fight. We can win this fight.
Never give up. Please don't ever, ever let go. Through pain and despair, I will be with you there. You know through it all, love is your right.
What if we dream, if we dare to have hope, that there might be an answer, to believe we could cope, to let go of the past and live for today, to trust in the future to show us the way? What if we learn to love one another, to think of each other as sister and brother?
Don't give in, don't you ever, ever let go. Broken and blind, with hope hard to find, we must keep believing, never give up.
Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. And I'm delighted to, on behalf of UK Men's Shed Association, introduce you to my two guests that I have here today. On my right, depending on where you're sitting, is Rachel Meadows, who is our communities and volunteer manager. And to my left is a very interesting gentleman named Beano. And he has an amazing story to tell about the work that he does. He's a singer, he's a shedder, he's a poet, and you didn't know it. And he has been doing some incredible work around helping men to deal with their mental health. And we really want to give him a platform to talk about that. He's got so many experiences. And I think many of us have been touched by people who've had suicidal feelings or mental health struggles. And it's one of the things as Men's Sheds that we really believe in is that people should start by talking. Just starting conversations. So we really are delighted to have Beano with us. Give everybody a wave, Beano, so they know who you are. And I'm going to pop off in a minute. Rachel and Beano, thank you very much for being here. Have a wonderful session. And I'm going to exit out and let you guys get on with it.
I'm Rachel from UK Men's Sheds, and I'm joined by Beano, who's from County Durham, who runs his own men's sheds as part of his charity Arty Projects. So I was just gonna, we're just gonna have a bit of a chat today, Beano. It's, as we said, it's informal. It's just to hear your story and hear about the work that you do and how you help people. But I was just going to start by reading a statistic which comes from the charity Rethink. And that statistic says that UK men are 3 times more likely than women to die by suicide. So before we kind of go into your personal story, I just wanted to ask kind of what you thought about that, and if you thought there was any particular reason why men may be more at risk than women of suicide.
Thank you for this opportunity, first of all. And it's really comforting to hear an accent from where I come from. Yeah, if we could find the answer to that, then we'd probably find a lot of solutions.
Yeah.
There isn't any clear evidence. The general idea is that men don't talk about the feelings, women do. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that's a possibility. The recent survey I read was about men's decisiveness, which makes us sound really strong and really sort of, really decisive. It isn't. It means basically we don't think things through as readily, maybe. But there's no clear evidence whatsoever. There's still an old, the breadwinner, the man. When things go wrong, a lot of suicides are connected with debt, and break down relationships. And I wonder if there's more pressure on men to perform in that way. So unfortunately, I can't answer that one for you.
Yeah, but it's quite shocking, isn't it? And I think, it's something to bear in mind. And I think that's the reason why things like men's sheds exist and projects like your own is to kind of allow men to kind of have safe spaces to open up, to start these conversations and have those chats, which are so important. But yeah, so obviously, Beano, here today to kind of share some of your story as well. So if you don't mind me, I'll hand over to you, and just if you just want to share whatever you feel comfortable with about your personal journey and kind of how you got to be where you are today, if that's all right.
Yeah, fine. You've given me the open mic. You're never going to get.
I'll go like this when we've had enough. I'll cut you off.
I struggled myself and became suicidal. Clearly, I didn't go through with it. Although whenever I say that, I wonder maybe I did, maybe I'm in heaven. I don't know. We'll leave that one for another day. But part of my recovery, which was long and slow, as it always is, was that I dragged myself out of my sleeping bag, which I'd lived in for months without seeing anybody, not answering the door, no electricity on. And for some reason, I got it in my head to paint a canvas white. I do art, and at the time I was doing painting. And I managed to find out what date it was, or day, and I timed myself. It took about 10 minutes. So I got back in my sleeping bag, shattered as if I'd done a day's work. And then something stuck in my head and told me that tomorrow I had to do more than 10 minutes. And I did. I think I did 12. I've still got the book. It's a long time ago now, and I've got this ledger of what I did each day. Incredibly coherent, considering the way my head was. And each day I did a bit more. And over a period of time, months later, I did an 8-hour day. And I thought, that's it, I'm cured. So I went back to my local art college. I just freaked out because I still couldn't engage in normal society. So for many, many years, I thought art saved my life. And in a way, it did, in a way. And that sort of stuck in my head, which is, I didn't run off and do it straight away, but that's stuck in my head to set this thing up, to kick something away that could help other people.
Yeah. And what is it that do you think about the kind of creativity, whether it's art or whether it's, guys in sheds building or crafting? Is there something about that kind of creative element, or do you think it's the engaging in something? What is it, do you think, that helps?
I think it's all of those things. Obviously, isolation is a big problem. That's one of the things that happened to me. So being in a room with other people, which can be terrifying at that time. But if you're in a room with other people who are in a similar situation, that's so comforting, so much easier to be with other people who maybe understand what you've been through a bit and maybe been through something similar. Art does actually happen in the same part of the brain, deep down where emotions happen. So a lot of what we go through is emotional rather than logical. In fact, it's often so illogical it just doesn't bear talking about. Art in itself is just an emotion that we feel about things and the way we respond to the world. So on that level, some people get involved in a meditational aspect of it where they can just lose themselves. Other people can use art to create words, images, songs about things that they wouldn't come out of their mouth in a normal conversation. So it can be quite expressive. What we make sure is whatever anybody does at arty projects, we celebrate it in some way, usually in the form of an exhibition, because what you've also usually lost is all your self-belief, your self-confidence. Right. So to see something that you've made in a display, you have to think, actually, maybe I am something. So it's complex, but I think the beauty with art, as opposed to other interventions, is that it crosses all social barriers, any age. You do it from the minute you're born, you can do it till you're old. It can be done anywhere. You can do it in a bedroom, you can do it on the bus. So it does have a universal function, which is quite easy.
I suppose it's just so personal, isn't it? If you asked 10 people to paint a picture of the same thing, they would all look totally different, wouldn't they? And, that's the beauty of it, I guess, is your emotions and your personality coming out through whatever medium you're using. I was going to ask you, obviously you talked about when you became able to re-engage again, and these conversations that you had, how hard was it for you to kind of go back into a room full of people and say, actually, I'd been feeling suicidal? Was that a difficult thing for you to do, or did that come quite easily for you?
No, one of the things I'm hoping people will get out of this, and probably should say that if anybody's watching who's struggling with suicidal thoughts or has broached the subject, then the idea of this is to give hope, not to prompt negative feelings. And that, well, basically, if that's what you're going through, and maybe this is the first time you've admitted it to yourself, then the advice would be to do exactly what you've just suggested and talk to somebody, anybody.
Yeah.
I told you, look, man, you never know. I say it's the bloke at the garage you'll be more used to than your GP sometimes. So it's about talking. Until you talk, it's something deep inside. It's a horrible black thing that just enters every fibre of your body. As soon as you say the words, it's like a release. It doesn't just belong to you anymore. It's out there, and that's when we can start doing something with it. So for me, the advice I'm going to give out is because I did exactly the opposite. I locked myself away from everybody. I didn't tell my GP because I was ashamed of it. I also decided that he would just put a big rubber stamp on my medical record, which said nutter or something. I'd never get another job. Everybody would know. It would be so shameful. So that's what I did wrong. It was very, very difficult. Many years later, somebody else said it in front of me, and I actually opened up and just said, I felt like that. And that started the process of me realizing how important it is to get it out there and talk about it.
So much stigma still attached to it, isn't it? As you say, that shame that people might feel, or, that it's going to be carried with them and affect their future, or affect, as you say, work or relationships or whatever it is. And I know you just mentioned there, if somebody is feeling suicidal, and this session is there to kind of talk about, to give hope. And we do have some useful numbers. I don't know if Leo, if you can pop those up, just, they're going to scroll along the bottom, and they're just kind of numbers that, Samaritans, we've got Calm on there as well. So people, if somebody is watching and they would like to speak to somebody and start those conversations, there's numbers that you can ring. So we'll just leave that on for a bit. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. It sounds like a very difficult thing to have had to kind of overcome. And I guess, what you said there about having the conversations with people that, the bloke in the garage might be more useful than the GP. It's kind of what happens, when somebody goes to a shed or a group like yours is, it's nothing scary. It's nothing clinical. It's guys like themselves who this conversation will naturally come out over time. They'll get to know each other. You feel in a safe space, maybe, and able to open up. Is that something you'd agree with? That kind of I know we talked about it before, non-clinical environment can help.
Anybody comes into this place, it's a little bungalow based in a council estate on the outskirts of Durham City. And if anybody tries to enter with a lanyard or a suit, we tend to keep them at the door, talk them, maybe show them around the back of the tradesman's entrance. That's a joke, obviously, but it's really important that it's a level playing field, that there's as little intimidation as there can be. Most people are sent into a clinical environment, maybe a doctor's surgery or a community centre, being asked to talk about stuff that they've never told anybody else. And the person opposite is wearing a lanyard. And I can tell you now, that person opposite is always taller, a lot taller. And they sort of surround you and they intimidate you. And then you're supposed to open up to them. You're going to open up to a mate, to another person, to a human being. And I think the most important thing about talking about it is where you do it. On the bus isn't usually appropriate, although I believe it is. But having the right environment, and men's sheds, have you touched on? Yeah, they're a level playing field, and that's where the conversations can happen.
Yeah, I think you're right about going into that setting of, immediately there's sometimes a power imbalance, or as you say, you wouldn't share that with somebody very close to you, but suddenly you've been asked to tell a doctor, and, in a 10-minute GP appointment or whatever, it's not conducive to a good conversation, is it? But yeah, I was going to ask as well if you could tell us a little bit more about your project, your shed, your charity. It's called Arty Projects, isn't it? So if you want to tell us a little bit about how you started that, or kind of where you are at the moment.
One of the things that I did was got myself trained up to be a tutor after falling out of my tree, as I call it. I was doing okay, but wasn't really fulfilled. And my colleague, who's also my partner, had trained in primary school education, and she had what the old style mental breakdown, nervous breakdown, which is basically she cracked up under the pressure. And we both were artists, and we both thought, right, there's got to be something else. So we did a project based in a community centre, working with older and younger people, trying to connect them, and it was so much more rewarding. And within that setting, we discovered one poor lass who, well, I went early to do a mosaic. I turned up the room. Hi, you must be here to do the mosaic. And she just threw herself in the corner, hid her face. I went to the reception. I said, this young lady's in a bit distressed. What do we do? She said, oh, well, she doesn't do men. I said, well, I think she's here to do the art project, and I'm a man. Where do we go now? Yeah. So she basically worked in a different room, and other people went and communicated with her from the main room. But gradually, and it went on for a couple of months, she got closer and closer, and occasionally made eye contact. It got to the point that in the end I was standing next to her. We had a lot in common. She was into photography, very competent. And then suddenly she started shaking, as when I'd first met her. And I said, are you okay? She said, no. I said, do you want me to go? She said, no. So I'm confused now. And I looked up and there's another man in the room. And then that moment that she'd trusted me to get rid of this other man, it's magical. So we set about getting funding to do a project to help people. And it just started there. About 12 years ago, that was.
Wow.
And we've honed it into what we now believe is the way it'll always be, which is ultimately suicide intervention. But it's anybody who's struggling with emotional hardship. We're not just open to men. We have a men's shed. We also have a she shed, which is like a shed for women now. And we have lots of other different groups. And the art that we utilise comes from people. So if somebody comes in and says, oh, I'd like to do some wood carving, then we'll find out how to do wood carving, printmaking. So the ideas come from the people and the men who turn. So it's sort of self-centred, if that makes sense.
And that's, I think, like with so many men's sheds, it's the activities that happen there are kind of, created by the members. So it's somebody's got an interest in something, or somebody's got a skill in something else. And it's all about kind of learning and teaching and sharing that knowledge with each other. So it's really, there's no definition of what a shed might look like. Your sheds might look very different to some other sheds, and that's some nice photos of some stuff that you guys do in yours. That's the beauty of it, is it's so different, and it's whatever somebody needs, they can kind of come and get from it. It looks like, do you know what, everyone on those photos had like a big smile on their face. It looks like a really nice environment.
We pay them for that.
But so it's obviously
the point you touched on there, that this place is all about saving people's lives, and you would expect to come in and find a sort of somber atmosphere, but look, it is like that. We're all in it together, and any excuse for a laugh, we're fine.
And I think what you said before about feeling comfortable when somebody shared their own feelings or experiences of suicide, and you felt comfortable to say, do you know what, I've been there as well. I guess that everybody in your place has experienced something similar, whether it's depression or anxiety or suicidal thoughts, and I guess that goes a long way in making it a safe space and a comfortable atmosphere where there's no power imbalance. As you say, you're leading the project, but you've been in that person's shoes or in a very close place to where they've been as well.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
But most places refer to people who access them, their services, as service users or clients. And it's horrendous. It's horrible. It's like pointing out that you're different because you're struggling emotionally. So we refer to each other, including the staff and volunteers here, as pals. So we send a funding bid up to work with our pals, and we often get back, what the hell are pals?
I like that there. And it's inclusive, isn't it? That's, one of the other things. No, I like that. Okay, so obviously you've talked about some of the the arty bits and pieces that you do, but obviously we mentioned at the start, and we played a little bit of it, that you create in a number of different ways, and one of those ways was poetry, and that you'd written this poem and it's come now to become a song. So if you could tell us a little bit, Beano, about your song and kind of, I suppose, where that came from, what happened, and how it's affected people, because I know you've had some real positive responses from it.
Amazing. I didn't really know what to expect. It was more like, you throw something out and see where it lands. So it was a lot like that. It started with a chap who I believe is watching us at this moment. I hope he is. And if you are, I'm not going to tell him you. But he came along and saw what we did, and he was an ex-mental health worker and saw the way we worked and was very impressed. So he set up a music gig in a local cafe. And all the funds came to Arty Projects, which is really a wonderful thing for him to do. And the next thing he come back and said, "Oh, I've got some musicians, all of whom have struggled with their mental health or have some song about mental health, and we're going to make a CD and we're going to sell it and we're going to give all the proceeds to you." And I thought, wow, this is wonderful. It's this sort of generosity that recurs over and over again here, just makes it worthwhile. So he said to me, because he knew I did poetry, I said, "I want one of your," he said, "there's a blank track on the CD." And I started getting all like sentimental, as I do, and said, "Is that for all the people we've lost or people who are struggling?" He said, "No, you daft bugger, it's for one of your poems." Well, I've got CDs that have a spoken word one, and you listen to the music and then the spoken word, and then you skip the spoken word, don't you, after a while? So I thought, I'm not doing it. So I put a song on. He said, "Oh, I didn't know you wrote songs." I said, "Well, I don't, but I'm going to learn." So he said, "I'll help you." And he put me in touch with another wonderful bloke who's, I'm hoping, is in the watching us again, called Steve Pledger. So he was a musician, he writes songwriter. I think we were going to put his website up. If you want to check out his stuff, then you should do. He's an amazing, passionate singer. I couldn't sing. We worked together. I told him what I wanted and the words, and he came in with his guitar. I'd never really communicated on this level with people, so the collaboration was amazing. And then he come up with this stuff, and we tweaked it, and then we ended up with this thing where basically I speak the poem, he sings the chorus wonderfully and plays the guitar. So I suppose I'm responsible for the words, he's responsible for the sound, the way it goes. And then we sort of now go around performing it. We sell T-shirts, badges, the CD, obviously, which brings in wonderful stuff for here. But what I'm really doing is open up the topic of suicide on stage, and in front of other people. And it's been well received. We've shifted quite a few copies. At first, we set it up on Bandcamp, which I think you'll find the address somewhere on here, to sell it. And I think it was £1 a shot. It wasn't long after that we realised the whole point of this is to get other people to hear it, and there we are charging. So it's on YouTube, and if anybody wants to share it, please do. I always say share it to at least 100 people, because statistically one of those people will be contemplating or thinking of it. So it started whereby we can work with people in here face to face, put somebody in front of us and we can help them. But I know that people take their lives in other buildings that I never see. We read the statistics, some horrendously close to this place, and I thought, well, how can we get to people that we don't even meet, that we don't? So I thought the best way would be a song, a free song, somewhere on the internet, and just put it out there and let people share it and push it around and see where it goes. And this very day last year, Suicide Prevention Day, we had a 2 or 3 hour show where we, rather like what you're doing, and we had different people on. And unbeknown to me, there was a young lady watching from a hospital bed. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
Having attempted to take her own life. As far as I can remember, contemplating getting out of hospital and finishing the job, really. So suicide becomes a bit of an obsession. When you get down the end of that road, it becomes almost like a hobby, like football or something. So she was scrolling all suicide this, suicide that, and she come across us on the Zoom program and saw these, never give up. Went and found the song, came out and came and found us, and she's still with us. I saw her only this week. It's absolutely beautiful. So I've heard other stories similar to that. It's probably the most poignant, but yeah, it touches people. So when I wrote it, I tried to remember what it felt like when I was at the bottom in this black hole when nobody else is. What could have helped? What could have jolted me? What could have changed my mind? And I've realised through writing it that what I've done is focused in on the individual, the first bit, and then it's about reaching out, because that's the important bit. That's the massively important turning point. And then it's about us as a society helping each other. So I'm hoping it'll touch everybody in some way or other.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole story of the Never.
It's amazing. The song's really good. I think, you know, something, music is so emotive. I think you were wise to kind of put music to it and turn it into song. You know, it's something that, you know, it's kind of catchy, but you know, we all have those like really personal feelings about different songs, and you know, lyrics can affect us in different ways. And I think that example is just, you know, an amazing story, and you know, so positive that it found the person that needed it. And as you say, to just put it out there and push it about and see where it goes. You don't know who it's going to touch or where it's going to end up. And if it finds the right person at the time when they need it, then it can make all the difference. And one of the things, you know, I think it says it on your website, and I think you mentioned it this morning as well, is, you know, talking about suicide, the kind of quote that's on your website says, you know, we may never know if our conversation has actually saved a life, but we do know that it might. And I think that's such an important quote. I don't know if you want to kind of explain about that or anything to do with that.
Yeah, I think it's okay, me sitting here saying, talk about suicide. But what you're doing when you talk about it, if it's coming from you, is you're telling somebody else, which is fantastic for you. But the person who's listening has this thing now, this, what do I do? So it's really important, probably more important, that we train or help people to understand how to respond. There's basic stuff like shock horror. No, not really. That's probably not the right way. With most things, I think that's probably not the right way. It's about listening. That's the most we can do is listen. Yeah. But make sure that you're safe with the knowledge and get the people to help you. I always think the suicide intervention training, which we provide, and I know Zero Suicide Alliance, which you're aligned with, their training online is fantastic, one of the best. We search them all out, and that one is good. Yeah.
It is very good, and that's one of the things I was going to mention in the session today, or at the end of it, is you've got the link there for it. And they do different kind of levels of it. So there's a kind of an access one where it's 5 minutes long, and it can give you, you know, that kind of just bit of suicide awareness. And then they've got this 30-minute one where, as you say, it starts a conversation like this with you. Well, what do you do and how do you support them? Because it can be a big, you know, it's a huge thing that somebody's decided to share with you, and where do you go with that and how do you help them? So, you know, all our volunteer ambassadors have had the links to those trainings so that they can complete that. So, you know, if they come across somebody who wants to have that conversation with them, they're then equipped with that and support somebody. But yeah, it's so important to kind of start those conversations and also to kind of know where to go with it, I think, definitely. And yeah, so some of the other things I was going to ask you about as well, we talked a little bit this morning about the painted rocks, and I guess that's another way of, if you tell us about them, that's another way of reaching out to people that you never know who's going to find it and what it is, what it might mean to somebody. So if you want to tell us about the painted rocks as well.
Yeah, it's like we talk in the charity sector, well, in most sectors, about engagement. How do you get people? And people say, how do people come into RT? How do they find you? And there's lots of different ways, and most of them are through referral processes. But I go back to my dark spell. And if RT Projects was next door, I probably wouldn't have gone. And if there was rules such as if there was any cost involved, I didn't have a penny. I don't remember eating. So even if it cost 10 pence, I couldn't have gone. Yeah. So it's free to attend here. The other thing is, because I didn't go to my GP, I didn't get diagnosed with anything. So I couldn't have accessed the service that needs a diagnosis or so in here, you turn up. If you feel bad, you turn up. You don't have to pay anything, and you don't have to necessarily explain yourself. So it's quite important that. But with the Never Give Up, it's a campaign, and again, there'll be a link to the website somewhere. And it's how do we reach people? I've already said, obviously, we can send a song out, but we also on the website, our website, sell T-shirts, and people buy them and wear them. They're pretty cool. I don't think anyone will look as good as me in them. But, so the idea, the caveat is when you wear and buy a T-shirt, then somebody's going to say, oh, never give up. What's that? And I always say it's your duty, your responsibility to at least use the word suicide. And that might be the start of a conversation. So it's a way of opening it up. And the other thing we did was started painting little rocks, and there's a Facebook page called Never Give Up Rocks, and we basically put Never Give Up, and on the back we'll put arty projects or wherever they can find support, and we just leave them all over Durham. In fact, they ended up all over the world. We've seen some in Mexico, in America, in Spain. People take them on holiday and leave them.
God, wow.
And the photographs come back, and I think, how did that get there? It's all great fun, but I can tell you one lady who we worked with was out with her son, not feeling particularly well, and he picked the rock up, and she openly admits, she said, put that down, you don't know where it's come from. He wouldn't. And she turned it over at arty projects, and after a couple of months she got in touch and she came to see us. So it was an actual engagement tool, really. Yeah. But it's also to share advice and support for people like that. Yeah, I think that's more or less it with the Never Give Up. There's rocks, t-shirts, badges. I give badges out, these little things.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Good.
If you wear one again, you have to be prepared to talk about it.
But it is that thing, if you never know who's going to see your t-shirt or find that rock, who might be having that day when they're thinking those particular things, and seeing that message as a sign to them to keep going. So I think it's so important to, that message is kind of out there all the time. And I know you said before, people kind of come to you in different ways, and you don't really advertise your services. Obviously, the rocks is kind of one thing, but it's good in a way, but also kind of scary in a way that you don't have to advertise. You still get people coming through the door that need that help. Yeah,
it is. There's a definite need. Apart from, we believe what we do is needed and we do it well, but there's a gap. There's a big gap. And suicide in particular is like a hot potato. You go to your GP and tell him, he'll put you in touch with someone quite quickly. And the crisis team might get involved. They'll get ready as soon as they can. I have a horrendous story about a lady we worked with who had the same counsellor for a couple of years and then went downhill, and she explained that she'd had suicidal thoughts. And the counsellor said, hang on, no, I can't work with you now. She obviously wasn't trained to. Yeah. But still, when the person had left, the counsellor got in touch with her husband and said, struggling. So that's broke down all the confidence. Yeah. It's as if there's a thing that it's like not on my watch, everybody's terrified, and the main
scared to touch you.
Yeah. Don't do it in front of me. Go somewhere else. So for us, the main thing that we do is, we're comfortable with the uncomfortable. If someone comes to us and says, I want to end my life, that's the start. Okay, what can we do about that? How do we start? How did it happen? But generally, it usually makes people run away, especially mental health services. It's sad. It's really sad. And then often they'll get the wrong intervention, maybe 6 weeks of talking therapies, which invariably fails. And after that, of course, you think, well, I was bad before, now I've had all the treatment, I'm still bad. There must be no hope. So,
And sometimes those, interventions are time limited. It's so difficult because there's going to be an end point. It may not be necessarily when somebody's ready to kind of come to the end of the sessions or whatever. So it can be very hard to kind of break that off suddenly. And if people kind of come to your RT projects, are they able to kind of, is there any time limit on that, or are they able to kind of stay with you as long as they need you, or how does that work?
They have to leave as soon as they are happy.
I like that.
You hit it on the head there. It's not only that it's time limited and obviously just wait. It's that what you're asking people to do is to share their inner thoughts, their feelings, develop a really intense relationship with you. And basically, if I say to you, will you tell me everything? And you won't see me again in 4 weeks' time. There's no trust. There is no trust. There's no reason. It's really important that people turn up. And sometimes they do say, so how many sessions have I got? I love saying, depends how many you need. You're here if you need to be.
I bet you get people coming back to visit you, though, do you? If they've kind of been.
It's a powerful point when you're at that point and people helped you. There's an invariable link. I lost a friend, which was one of the inspirations, but I'd saved him once a couple of years earlier. Before I knew how to and what I do now, before I had this knowledge, and I really, really regret that I didn't have the understanding then. But I got him through it at one point, and every time he saw me, I'm not allowed to swear on here, he holding me, eye contact like this.
Yeah.
You saved my life, I say, look, there's more to our relationship than that. Let's have a podcast. But it's so intense when somebody has helped you through. Yeah. So we make genuine, real friendship with people. And many years later, get in touch, send a message, or something, which is wonderful. It's magical.
Yeah, it must be. I was just going to ask as well, Beano, if I'm getting a bit of feedback. Hopefully, no one else is. If somebody is watching this and they are feeling themselves in a tough place, or they're feeling suicidal, have you got anything that you would kind of say to them, or anything that you would, any message that you think might be useful for them to hear?
The first thing I would say is talk to somebody. Get it out. Turn it into a conversation. Turn this, whatever's in there, into a conversation. The other thing is to, I think, connect with other people who maybe have felt something similar. I think, anyway. And also, probably, I can't remember who said it, but they said that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Yeah. I think it's vital to recognise that whatever you're feeling like right now, you're not going to feel like that forever. I thought it was. I thought that was it. And now I actually laugh sometimes, I smile, tell jokes. So it's really important to understand it's a temporary thing and it can be fixed. It's hard to see that at the time, but it can be fixed. But you will need support. Because the obvious is Samaritans, who listen to wonderful organisations. There's other local charities in other parts of the country, rather like us. Connect with other organisations, connect with people and talk.
Yeah, that's such good advice. And I know we've had Samaritan's number and stuff scrolling along today, but we also on our website, on our menshed.org.uk website, if you go there, Leo's just popped the link up, as you can see. If you follow the pathway, if you click on news, health and wellness, and then suicide prevention, you'll see our page where we've got a Beano song on there. We've got these useful numbers. So I think we've got Mind, we've got Calm, we've got Samaritans on there. Ways to find support in your area, and some information there about suicide awareness and prevention. And as we've talked about as well, the Zero Suicide Alliance training. So, it's, as we've mentioned, how important it is to know what to say to somebody if they come to you with something like this. That training can really give a good starter, or a good kind of in-depth look at kind of how to support somebody and what you might want to say to them, because it is a big thing that somebody's entrusting onto you, isn't it? That they feel comfortable with you to share that. So we've got the link for the Zero Suicide Alliance training on our website page as well. So have a look at that. And then, anything else you want to add, Beano, about your experience, or kind of anything that you'd like to share?
Just to reiterate that it isn't a miserable thing, recovering from suicide. It isn't a miserable subject. It isn't a miserable topic. One of the things we do with the song is take it out on tour with live shows, and we've connected with Durham University, and every year now we have a Never Give Up concert where students and locals perform music. So it can be a thing not to celebrate, but to be upbeat about, because there is a way out. And the bit about accepting somebody's, if you like, confession about suicidal thoughts, it's quite important that you don't have to do it alone. It's not like between you and one person. It's important that you get other people to support you with this person. It's a really dangerous proposition to put yourself alone in that, to save one person's life, because there is always that chance that you might not, and then of course it's all your fault. So it's important that the person who's supporting the suicidal person has other people to support them. And
I think that is important. And I know you mentioned this morning when we chatted that if somebody has been affected by suicide in terms of a family member or friend dying by suicide, then they themselves are at a higher risk of suicide. So I guess that's important to know as well, that people who've been affected by it need to find support for themselves. I must admit, when we do sadly hear of a suicide, the first thought that comes to my head is who's close to them, what family members, because now we need to go and check out on them, make sure they're getting through it. Thank you so much, Beano. It's been so nice to talk to you. And Leo, I don't know if you're going to pop back in to say, oh, here he is.
Hello.
Pop back in to say hello.
Yes. Thank you so much both for having this important conversation. And I will just want to do a bit of housekeeping to say everything that you've heard on here will replay after this session is over. So if you've missed anything, if you've come to the party late, this recording will be available on our YouTube channel and on the Facebook page. Wherever you are right now, it will be there. A recording of this will automatically pop up magically after this session, so you won't need to miss a thing. As well, we want you to take advantage of this link, the one you see on the screen, mensheds.org.uk, which is our website, suicide prevention. Everything, again, that's been discussed here, everything from what Beano's been talking about, his amazing song that he wrote, links to his website, to RTP, RT projects, where you can buy the t-shirt, all those things will be there. Anything you need to know about World Suicide Prevention Day, what is it about, how can I get stuck in? This is part of it. Just coming to something like this, you've already begun the process. Next time, you'll be more equipped to talk to people about this sort of thing. There's a lot of myths and truths about suicide, things like, oh, don't talk about it. Actually, Beano here has dispelled it, along with many other organizations. Do have that conversation. As long as you're listening and you're caring, you're not going to trigger someone because you brought the topic up. Yeah. Some other places we want to refer you to, we have a partnership with Zero Suicide Alliance. Thanks, Rachel, for bringing that up. As she said, they do very short training courses, which you can take online. You can go right now onto their website, and you can take the 5-minute training course or the full fat 20-minute course. And it just teaches you what to do should you find yourself in the situation that you're there with someone and you don't know what to do. I've been there myself when I've not known what to say or whether it was really happening or whether it was serious. We want you to go onto the page and learn everything you can about what to do should you find yourself there. If you've been bereaved, some of you are grieving and this has happened to you, there's links as well to sites you can go to, people that can talk you through how to manage that. If you're going through right now, you don't want to go through this alone. Again, RTP projects, awesome project that has a men's shed, which Beano is a part of. Go over there, support what they're doing, see what they're doing. On their Facebook page, there's incredible photos of all these amazing art projects that they're doing, which is so helpful. And I think I want to just thank Beano again for coming on. Yeah. And thank you guys for having this conversation. Remember, guys, start the conversation, spread awareness, and educate yourself. That's all we're saying on this World Suicide Prevention Day.
Yeah, and we've had some really nice comments popping up as well, just to mention them. So Steve is watching. So Steve, who co-wrote the song with you, Beano, I'll just pop it up. Oops. Oh. Sorry, Leo, we're both doing it at the same time. Right. So Steve, there's nice comment. So yeah, nice to meet you, Steve, wherever you may be. And yeah, great song.
And I think Beano's getting some love there as well.
I know, yeah. That's nice. And we are going to play the song and the video as well, aren't we, Leo, in a minute?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, thanks again. But it's dead nice to meet you and have a chat and for sharing.
Thank you for the opportunity. And most of all, thank you on behalf of everyone who's watching for what you're doing. Because you set this up. I came along and talked. It's easy for me. The video, by the way, was made in lockdown. And it's just loads of scraps of stuff because I point cameras at everything. If it looks a bit, actually, I quite like it.
I like the video, and in lockdown you're very limited, so what you can film and do when you're not allowed to leave the house. So I think you've done a very good job. I'm just envious of all your skill sets there. I mean, you're a poet, you're a singer, you're a photographer, you're a shedder. What don't you do there, Beano?
I don't like water. I don't swim.
Really, well, Rachel loves water. She's almost a fish at this point.
It's because I live on a peninsula. I'm surrounded by water at all times, basically. Right. So that's why.
Right. Beano, is there anything else you want to direct people to? Anything that you guys are working on at the minute that you'd want people to be aware of before we close out?
We do have an RT Minds section, which is our online provision. So when lockdown hit, we had to support people in any way we could. Sometimes it was outdoor. We did still run small sessions in-house, but we set up a complete website and we can offer watercolors. Most of it's free. Figure drawing, music, songwriting. If anybody likes music, come in on a Thursday night to a thing called Sounds Good, and there's a few of us just making absolute fools of ourselves, but giving the opportunity, a platform for people with spoken word, a guitar, sing a song, or just sit and watch. It's on every Thursday night. You'll find it on our website.
Oh,
Brilliant. I think on that note, we're just going to close out with your powerful video.
Yeah.
All the best, my friend, and we'll hopefully catch you later.
Yeah. Bye, Beano. Bye, Leo. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Thank
This been kind of like a mental health epidemic over the last few years, like in the Western world, especially.
What if? What if? What if? What if we stumble? What if we fall? If the world we exist in makes no sense at all? What if the weight becomes too much to bear? We can't really function, we're so full of fear. And what if in darkness we can't see the light, and we start to consider to give up the fight?
Never give up. Please don't ever, ever let go. In the darkest night, you must find the light. This time is not right for you to go.
What if we reached out and touched someone's hand and maybe discover that they understand? And what if someone could just show us how to see failing as learning and to live in the now? And what if we opened and could see the light and start to consider we can win this fight? We can win this fight. We can win this fight.
Never give up. Please don't ever, ever let go. Through pain and despair, I will be with you there. You know through it all, love is your right.
What if we dream, if we dare to have hope, that there might be an answer, to believe we could cope, to let go of the past and live for today, to trust in the future to show us the way? What if we learn to love one another, to think of each other as sister and brother?
Don't give in. Don't you ever, ever let go. Broken and blind, with hope hard to find, we must keep believing, never give up.
What if love is the answer?